everybody, welcome to Prehistoric Fiction and Fantasy, where we put the prehistoric literary criticism spin on all things fantastic or prehistoric. I'm your host, J. Lion Layden, and tonight we're discussing Game of Thrones once again, Season 6, Episode 7, The Broken Man, and it starts out with Sandor Clegane, the big reveal that the Hound is still alive. And in the books, we kind of already knew this because Brienne sees a gravedigger when she visits a similar Septon, and he's got the limp just like Sandor has in the episode. And we all had a good idea that this was really Sandor Clegane, and that it was a foreshadowing that Sandor is going to get his chance at revenge against his brother, the Mountain, in Clegane Bowl. Now, the interesting thing about this sequence is in the conversation with Septon Ray, we see a discussion of one of the main themes of A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones, I think, which is the concept of agnosticism, where it seems as if death and the beyond, the afterlife, and the gods are unknowable to mortals such as man. And Septon Ray discusses this. He says he doesn't know what the real names of the gods are, whether it's one or many. All he knows is that miracles happen and that there's something beyond, a greater power. Now, to me, this sounds an awful lot like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. Check it out.
When I found you, I thought you'd been dead for days. Well, you were stinking already, and you had bugs all over you, and bone was coming through right there. I was going to give you a proper burial, and then you coughed. Oh, nearly shit myself. I reckoned you were going to die by the time I loaded you on the wagon, but you didn't. I reckon you died a dozen more times over the next few days, but you didn't. What kept you going?
Hate.
There's a reason you're still here.
Well, there's a reason I'm a big fucker and I'm tough to kill.
No, a reason. Gods aren't done with you yet.
I've heard that before. Man was talking about a different god though.
Well, maybe he was right. I don't know much about the gods.
You're on the wrong line of work.
Well, there's plenty of pious sons of bitches who think they know the word of God or gods. I don't. I don't even know their real names. Maybe it is the seven. Or maybe it's the old gods. Or maybe it's the Lord of Light. Or maybe they're all the same fucking thing. I don't know. What matters, I believe, is that there's something greater than us. Whatever it is, it's got plans for Sandor Clegane.
One of the main steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is to accept a higher power that is greater than yourself. And I think that the doctrine there is that it's important to believe this, whether ultimately it's true or not, because it keeps you from falling in despair, to keep you from the guilt taking over, and to keep this coarse material world from breaking you. And that is what he's conveying to the Hound in this season. And I think that in the next scene you're also going to get more parallels to the idea of an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting for reformed killers. The next scene is with Margaery Tyrell and the Septon, and I think that in this scene the implied broken man is Tommen, but as we later see, High Sparrow is something of a broken man because he fails in what he's trying to do.
Can I ask you about a personal matter?
Of course.
The king mentioned that since your reunion, you haven't joined him in the marriage bed.
No.
Now, in case you missed that, the High Sparrow just told Margaery that he knows that she is controlling the throne with the Punani. Tommen's whipped. Or should I say whooped. When the High Sparrow tries to tell Margaery that he, aka the gods, are in control of the Punani and that she's got to dole it out when she's supposed to, Margaery kind of turns her back around on him and tells him that it's because of my faith and my spiritualism, my newfound religion, that I'm not giving it up. And he responds for some really patriarchal bullshit doctrine on her.
Congress does not require desire on the woman's part.
And even though she says okay, he knows he hasn't won, so he throws in her grandma.
I only pray your grandmother follows your lead.
My grandmother?
Oh, you're gonna go there?
Or I fear for her safety.
Well, Margaery's smart enough to find a way to get word to the Queen of Thorns that she needs to get out of town, because Margaery's got this, and once again, she's winning the Game of Thrones at this juncture in King's Landing. Next scene's got all kinds of broken men. You got Jaimie, who's a broken man because he's lost his hand. He's been stripped of his title as a King's Guard, but he's still making it out to look like he is in control. The phrase by it, because they're broken men. They're probably broken from the day they were born, having a grandfather like that. But they prove that they can't even follow through with their threats on another broken man. Ed Muir's definitely a broken man. A lot of that haughty arrogance that he had seems to be gone, and yet he hasn't shed his entitlement totally, because he seems a little miffed that the Blackfish doesn't sacrifice their whole house and family and castle in order to save his butt. By the end of the scene, Jaimie is broken by the Blackfish because none of his threats or reason seems to get through to the elder warrior. Blackfish is a broken man. He's seemingly lost, but he's showing how to be a broken man with style. He's showing Jaimie in the phrase how to do it. You don't give up, you stand true to your ideals and your beliefs. Now, when we see the situation in the north with Davos, Sansa, and Jon Snow going around to try to get support against the Boltons, we see that in those scenes it's mostly that Jon is kind of the broken man. His fierce resolve and his truthfulness wins with the wildlings, with the help, of course, of Tormund Giantsbane. But when he goes to visit the Mormonts, he shows that he's lost any tact he never had. I mean, Jon Snow didn't have much tact to begin with. He was always saying things too bluntly, like a stark will, but his death seems to make him even worse at it. I mean, he starts off trying to convince Lady Mormont when he gets flustered by saying, "What you have to understand." Now, you don't even have to read How to Win Friends and Influence People to know that you don't tell people what you have to understand, because of course their psyche is going to immediately respond with, "How do you know what I have to understand? I don't have to understand shit, dude." But Davos once again proves that he's everybody's father and a great negotiator by first showing Lady Mormont that he can understand where she's coming from. Jon's just trying to force it on her. You have to understand. I don't care where you're coming from. But Davos wins the day. Sansa is also somewhat of the broken man in the situation in the north, because despite all of her resolve is finally broken, and she writes that letter to Peter Baelish. Now, it must have taken a lot of foresight and planning for Peter to be so sure that he could orchestrate all these things, and in the end, Sansa was not going to get enough support so that she would, in the end, have to come and seek his aid no matter whether she wanted to or not. But what can I say? Peter's a pimp, and of course in the Yara and Theon scene, Theon is obviously the broken man, and Yara does a really good job of giving him a pep talk, and this pep talk is also a lot like an AA meeting. I mean, if you're not going to get on with it and do the job, then you might as well end it. And that can be one of the hard lessons that people learn in these AA meetings, that you have to find some reason to go on, something higher than yourself. In this case, I guess it's Yara's greatness and the restoration of the Iron Men to her control. And what I think is interesting is that, why did Yara bring him there? Was it all because of her own lust? I think she's also kind of teach Theon that, hey, you can have fun and enjoy the pleasures of women even if you don't have now we see the real AA meeting. In an AA meeting, you have everybody come in and they say, hi, I'm Sandor and I'm a killaholic, and then they tell you their story, or they tell you another slice of life from their experiences and their struggles, either during their drinking years or after their drinking or drug abusing years. And I think that this looks so much like an AA meeting with Septon Ray giving his testimonial.
I was a soldier once. All my superiors thought I was brave. I wasn't. I mean, I never ran from a fight. Only because I was afraid my friends would see I was afraid. That's all I was, a coward. Who followed orders. No matter the orders. Burn that village? Fine. I'm your arsonist. Steal that farmer's crops? Good. I'm your thief. Kill those young lads so they won't take up arms against us. I'm your murderer. You know, I remember once a woman screaming at us, calling us animals as we dragged her son from their hut. But we weren't animals. Animals are true to their nature. And we had betrayed ours. I cut that young boy's throat myself as his mother screamed, and my friends held her back. That night, I felt so shame. Shame was so heavy on me, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. All I could do was stare into that dark sky and listen to that mother screaming her son's name. I'll hear her screaming the rest of my life. I know I can never bring that lad back. All I can do with time I've got left is bring a little goodness into the world. That's all any of us can do, isn't it? Never too late to stop robbing people, to stop killing people, and start helping people. It's never too late to come back.
I think these scenes with Septon Ray are really important for the overall theme of Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones, how the beyond, the afterlife is somewhat unknowable, and what these entities that they call gods really are. Is there really an Azor Ahai? Is there really an other, Rolor, and all these things? Or are these just interpretations that humans have made in trying to understand something that they possibly can't understand? The gods are unknowable, but miracles do happen. Sandor seems to be of the more atheistic idea that, no, it's just what happened, it's not a miracle, it's just what happened. But Septon Ray's point is that you have to believe that it's happening. You have to believe in the miracles, whether it was just some coincidence or not, because otherwise, why go on?
When I talk about belief, why do you always assume I'm talking about God?
I don't care what you believe. Just believe.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Please subscribe. We've got the 3rd installment on episode 7 coming out tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll also release our latest single, Deep Breathe. I hope you'll check it out. We'll see you next time on Fantasy or Prehistory.